It started with a simple message from my Filipino friend, Miguel. Bro, come to my house this weekend. My family wants to meet you. At first, I thought it was just a casual hangout, maybe some snacks, a chat, and that's it. In Korea, when someone invites you home, it's usually just a few close friends. You don't bring your whole family into it. But in the Philippines, I was about to learn that an invitation isn't just an event. It's an experience. Miguel lived in Quezon City, about 40 minutes from where I was staying. When I arrived, the first thing I noticed was the sound laughter, music, and the smell of something delicious cooking even before I entered the gate. The moment I stepped in, his entire family, parents, siblings, cousins, even neighbors turned toward me and shouted, "Welcome, Danny!" It wasn't quiet politeness, it was full-on celebration. For a second, I didn't know how to react. In Korea, people greet you with a polite nod. Here, they hug you like you've been gone for years. Miguel's mother came up and held both my hands. "Welcome, Anak," she said. Anak means my child. That one word already broke down any wall between us. I wasn't just a guest. I was instantly part of the family. Inside, the house was filled with warmth, literally and emotionally. Electric fans buzzed in every corner, kids ran around barefoot, and someone was setting plates on the table as laughter echoed from the kitchen. Miguel whispered, "Sorry, bro. My family gets too excited." But I didn't feel overwhelmed. I felt honored. Back home in Korea, hosting a guest means cleaning everything, preparing perfectly plated food, and trying to look ready. Here, it was the opposite, a kind of beautiful chaos. The floor wasn't spotless, the plates didn't match, but the energy? It was pure, unfiltered welcome. His father came over and handed me a cold soda. "Sit down, son. You're home now." I smiled awkwardly, still trying to process what was happening. But as I looked around at all the smiling faces, people I'd never met, treating me like I'd known them for years, I realized this wasn't just dinner. This was belonging, and that's when it hit me. In Korea, hospitality starts with preparation. In the Philippines, it starts with heart. The moment I sat down, I realized this wasn't just a meal, it was an event. The table was overflowing with food. There was adobo, pancit, sinigang, lumpia, lechon dishes I had only seen on YouTube before. Each one had a story. Miguel's mom proudly said, "This one, I cooked since morning." His aunt added, "That one, special recipe." It wasn't just dinner, it was love served on plates. They kept saying, eat more," every few minutes. When I said, "I'm already full," they laughed like I had told a joke. "No, no, you must eat more. You too thin." Before I knew it, another spoonful of rice and meat appeared on my plate. In Korea, that might feel like pressure. Here it felt like affection. Their way of showing care wasn't through words, it was through food. Miguel whispered, "Don't say you're full too soon. It's like rejecting love." I laughed, but he was right. In Korea, saying "I'm full" is polite. In the Philippines, it's almost rude because food is not just food. It's an extension of their heart. As I started eating, they all watched with anticipation, waiting for my reaction. When I said, "Masarap," meaning delicious, everyone cheered. The grandmother clapped her hands, the kids laughed, and Miguel's father shouted, "See! Korean like Filipino food!" It felt like I had just passed an exam I didn't even know I was taking. There was no silence at the table, no phones, no hurry. Everyone talked, laughed, shared stories. They asked me about Korea, about snow, about K-dramas, and every time I answered, someone would add food to my plate again. It was noisy, chaotic, and completely beautiful. At one point, Miguel's mom sat down next to me, smiling. "Danny, next time you come, we make kimchi, okay?" I couldn't stop smiling. That simple sentence, "we make kimchi," was her way of saying, "You're part of us now." I looked around the table again, mismatched plates, kids running, dogs barking outside, everyone laughing. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And I realized this wasn't a dinner between friends. It was a welcome into a family. After dinner, I thought things would slow down, maybe some coffee, small talk, and then I'd head home. But no, that was just the beginning. The living room quickly turned into a playground of laughter. The kids sat beside me, showing off their toys. Miguel's dad brought out a guitar, and someone started singing. It wasn't planned. It just happened. Miguel's father strummed the guitar and sang an old Tagalog song. He pointed to me with a smile. "Your turn, Korean song." I hesitated but laughed and sang a little piece of Spring Day by BTS. Everyone clapped and cheered as if I was performing on stage. Then Miguel's mom said, "You sing good. You are family now." That sentence, "you are family now," hit differently. It wasn't flattery, it was declaration. I've been to many gatherings in Korea. We show respect by being formal, quiet, and polite. But here, formality didn't exist. Everyone spoke freely, laughed loudly, interrupted each other mid-sentence. And yet, it felt like harmony, not chaos. Miguel's younger brother brought out a photo album and said, "We show you our family." He flipped through pictures of birthdays, graduations, and fiestas. They weren't trying to impress me. They just wanted to share their lives. Then Miguel's grandmother placed her hand on mine and said softly, "You far from home, but here, you not alone." I didn't know what to say. That moment said more than any words could. Later, they started teasing me with Tagalog phrases. "Danny, you know kain means, 'let's eat.'" I tried to repeat it, but they all laughed when I mispronounced it. The room filled with laughter again, the kind that makes your stomach hurt. And the funny thing was, even though my Tagalog was terrible, we understood each other perfectly. Because kindness doesn't need translation. When it was time for dessert, Miguel's mom brought halo and handed me a big bowl. I said, "I can't finish this." She smiled and replied, "Yes, you can, Anak. You strong." And somehow I did. That night, surrounded by people I'd met just hours ago, I didn't feel like a guest anymore. I felt like I belonged. Maybe that's the secret of Filipino hospitality. They don't invite you into their home. They invite you into their family. As the night went on, I thought everything was over after dessert. But I was wrong again. When I stood up to thank everyone and say goodbye, Miguel's mom quickly said, "Wait, wait, you can't go yet." She disappeared into the kitchen, and when she came back, her arms were full. Plastic containers, fruits, snacks, all packed for me to take home. "Here, Danny," she said, smiling. "Take this, so you remember us." I tried to refuse, politely. "No, it's okay, really. You don't have to." But she laughed. "If you say no, I'll be sad." That line made me stop, because in that moment, I realized in this house, refusing kindness was like closing the door on love. They gave me food, yes, but what they were really giving was care. Each container of adobo or rice wasn't just leftovers, it was an expression of affection. In Korea, people often show love through preparation, perfect plating, neat packaging, polite gestures. Here it was spontaneous, generous, overflowing. Then Miguel's father came over and handed me a small keychain. A simple wooden one, carved with the word family. He said, "Next time you come, you don't knock. Just come in." That hit me harder than I expected. It wasn't just hospitality, it was belonging, freely given. Before leaving, Miguel's grandmother hugged me tightly. Not the polite 2-second hug I was used to, but a long, sincere embrace. She whispered, "You have home here." Those words stayed in my heart even after I walked out the door. As I stepped outside, the night air felt different, cooler, softer. The streetlights flickered, kids still played outside, and I could hear laughter from the house behind me. I turned back once more, and they were still waving from the doorway, all of them. I walked away holding the bag of food, the keychain in my pocket, and a strange warmth in my chest. Not because of what I received, but because of what I felt. It wasn't charity. It wasn't politeness. It was connection, pure human connection. That night, I realized something simple but powerful. You can buy gifts, plan events, prepare food, but you can't fake sincerity. And in that Filipino home, sincerity was everywhere. When I got back to my place that night, I placed the containers on the table, still warm, still smelling like their kitchen. Next to them was the small wooden keychain that said, family. I sat there for a while, just looking at it, and I realized that something had changed in me. In Korea, we show respect through preparation, setting the table perfectly, offering polite words, and making sure everything looks right. It's thoughtful, disciplined, and careful. But it's also distant. There's always a line between the guest and the host, a formality that keeps emotions contained. In the Philippines, that line doesn't exist. They don't host you, they absorb you. The moment you step inside, you're not a visitor, you're a brother, a son, a friend. Their kindness doesn't wait for permission. It just flows naturally, like breathing. When Miguel's father said, "Next time, you don't knock," that wasn't just an invitation, it was a philosophy. Here, doors aren't barriers, they're bridges. And in that openness, you feel something that's often missing in modern life: trust. I remembered how his mother called me Anak, how the grandmother hugged me tightly, how they kept refilling my plate no matter how many times I said I was full. Every gesture said the same thing: you matter. And maybe that's what true hospitality really is. Not performance, not obligation, but the simple act of making someone feel seen and valued. The next morning, I sent Miguel a message. "Thank your family for me. I felt at home." He replied instantly, "My mom already planning next dinner, bro." I laughed out loud, of course she was. As I looked again at that little keychain, I thought, back home, we prepare for guests. Here, they prepare with you. In Korea, hospitality means respect. In the Philippines, hospitality means love. That night didn't just feed me, it changed the way I see kindness. Because sometimes you don't need a fancy table or perfect manners. You just need an open door, a full heart, and a seat waiting for someone new.